Hello everyone, how y'all doing? So I have a Steam Deck that I've owned for at least 2 years. Funnily enough, I've actually almost lost this twice, but that's a different story altogether. Now, I'm sure you already know by now, but Valve recently decided to increase the prices for the Steam Deck, which does make me feel concerned for a few reasons, but I first want to note, as of right now, Valve is only lining up the 512 and 1TB OLED units. So they're not selling the LCD and the 256GB versions, which in the past used to be pretty compelling offers. Maybe they might be selling those as refurbished, but as of new units, they're not doing it anymore, at least as of right now. So because of this, the cheapest Steam Deck being sold right now costs €779. To put this into perspective, as of me writing this video, there's an Asus ROG X-Boy Ally being sold for €499. Alternatively, for €779, you could even buy a standard PS5 that comes with 2 controllers and you would still have money left to buy either a full price game or up to 3 different official accessories. And that's only the cheapest Steam Deck offer. I don't even want to bring up the 1TB option. That thing somehow is more expensive than the PS5 Pro. Moreover, while I was looking into the current prices for the latest consoles, I found out that there's a PS5 digital edition that only comes with 825GB, which costs €499, as well as a standard Switch 2 priced at €449. If you bought these two things together, you would only be spending $30 more than the 1TB Steam Deck. So for 2 consoles, you're only spending $30 more than 1 Steam Deck. Yeah, this is really fucking bad. Now obviously I do not condone buying digital editions of consoles, and I have no idea how long these 2 offerings will be available before they either get sold out or if they get a price increase. I'm honestly not sure. Anything can happen nowadays, but the fact that it's even possible to buy 2 different consoles by just spending $30 more than the 1TB edition of the Steam Deck just shows to you how horribly priced these are. You know, I've been pretty negligent towards the Switch 2 ever since it came out, just because I wasn't really a fan of some of the business decisions that they were making. But honestly, at this point, I would recommend that you buy a Switch 2 over a Steam Deck. Which, funnily enough, when I said that on Twitter, someone responded to me saying that the Switch isn't comparable because it has a lock system, it has no modding, and no desktop mode. Yeah, I'm very curious to see you convince the average person that they should spend almost $300 more for a weaker hardware, because at least they won't have a locked ecosystem. Now listen, I'm as much of a PC gamer as the next guy, but this is a pretty steep trade-off for the average person who just wants to play games on the go. Now to be clear, I'm well aware of the real reason for why I got a price increase. It's because of the current market conditions with things such as RAM and storage devices getting more expensive. But when you consider the fact that Nintendo often aims to sell their units with the expectation that they're going to profit from it, because remember, Nintendo is not like Sony and Microsoft who sell their consoles at a loss with the expectation that they'll earn back their money through software sales. Nintendo does earn profits from unit sales. So the fact that they're able to sell the Switch 2, which I would argue that in some areas in terms of specs is actually better than the Steam Deck, at least when it's docked, but it's also somehow cheaper than it, to me it goes to show you that Valve in terms of distribution is far behind Sony and Nintendo. I don't even necessarily think it's greed, although that could be a factor. I genuinely think Valve is just not as effective at negotiating deals for purchasing chips from suppliers, as well as potentially just not having foresight in upcoming shortages and having the initiative to prepare for these events. I mean, wasn't it like months ago that Valve during a GDC talk was e-begging for RAM? And you know, the reason why this bothers me is because there might have been a point in time when I genuinely considered the idea that 2026 might be the year of the Linux desktop, not in terms of like overtaking Microsoft, but in terms of like significantly expanding its market share, because Valve had the potential of further normalizing the idea of Linux gaming through the Steam machine. It provides a living room experience that I could easily see it replacing a standard home console when you consider just how much work they put into the SteamOS interface, the fact that you can turn on the console using a Steam controller, the fact that it's a small device that wouldn't create any space constraints. There was so much potential. But if they can't even get the pricing for the Steam Deck right, I'm genuinely worried if they're gonna be able to get the Steam machine right. Because at the end of the day, PC evangelists will always try to make the argument that PC is a much more open platform, you can mod games on PC, you don't need to pay for a subscription to play online. Some will even try to say that the PS5 has no games, And look, you can make those arguments all day, and I will say that I agree with most of them. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to convince the average person that they should spend 779 euros for a Steam Deck when they can buy a more powerful hardware and save hundreds of euros, or even worse when you consider the fact that the 1TB Steam Deck costs only 30 bucks less than a Switch 2 and a PS5 combined. I guarantee you they're not going to think about the fact that you can't mod games on a Switch 2. The only thing that will cross their mind is the fact that one console lets them play Pokemon Pokopia and Super Mario World, while the other one doesn't. And it costs more. This needs to be taken seriously, because here's the thing, my biggest concern right now is the Steam machine. And I'm still willing to believe that maybe Valve might be able to nail an adequate price when you consider the fact that the Steam machine does seem to be composed of mostly cheap parts, and to do that, it's a win for everyone. It certainly will be a win for me. If this becomes successful, who knows, maybe there will be an increase in demand for more Linux software support now that more people have access to this inexpensive PC. We did see that with the Steam Deck. There were even some mod managers that started releasing native Linux builds. Hell, Nvidia finally released an official GeForce Now app for Linux. So trust me, I would be much happier if Valve was able to get this right. But after these price increases, I'm not so confident, and honestly it makes me wonder if they would have been better off not even restocking these units, because right now more people are worried about the Steam machine potentially costing more than $1,000. And when you consider how we will most likely start seeing the 10th generation of consoles roam around within the next 1 to 2 years, I just feel like more people are just gonna save their money for the upcoming PS6 or even Xbox Helix instead of a Steam machine. So yeah, I'm not very happy. I do hope things improve, but I will certainly say that my hope has died down quite a bit. But anyway, that's all.